What if it doesn't work out? Well, I mean, I'm going to talk more specifically about music, but just life in general. It's we have these ideas of things that we want to do, but running alongside of it is this looming question or this wonder of I need to make alternate plans in case this thing that I'm working on now doesn't work out. Um, as you guys know, in September, the producer and I celebrated our 27th year of marriage, and it's not always been great, as most marriages experience. But you know, it's 27 years. That's not something you hear about a lot. Oh, you hear, a lot of times about people being married for a few years and then it didn't work out, and so they made different plans, which I think is unfortunate. Um, so I don't know if in those scenarios, if people have in their mind like, okay, if this doesn't work out, I've got an exit plan. Um, so for me in music, I started drumming when I was 10 years old. At that point in my life, I didn't think I'm going to do this for a living. I just really I fell in love with drums, and I've been in love with drums ever since. Now, it's not the same kind of love I have for my wife and my family. Um, and I hope people understand that. But I love that instrument. I love music, and I love being around people that love their instruments and love music as well. And I think it's a great thing. But when I was 10 years old, I wasn't thinking, oh, I want to be a rock star, or oh, I'm going to make a living playing the drums or whatever. I mean, that's a time in our life where people are going around the room. What do you want to be? I want to be a doctor. I want to be a fireman. I want to be, those kind of things. I want to be a pilot. Um, those are kind of like children go-to things that they want to become. So as I got further and further and further involved with music, and I was in high school and I was getting close to graduation, and my parents are asking what parents do, like, what is your plan for, what do you want to do with your life? And by that time, the idea of going to college freaked me out, quite frankly, because I still wouldn't know what I wanted to do. Um, I I at that point really wanted to be a rock star. And so I was starting to look for opportunities that would allow me to follow that path. And I had bands that I put together, and bands fall apart. And for all the reasons that I talked about last week, like being fired from your band or having to quit your band, those kind of things. Um, Oddly enough, side note, like I watch to see how many views these videos get, because it kind of clues me in on what people might be interested in. It's like the more controversy or more things that could agitate something, those get higher views. So being fired from your band has close to 1,000 views, where um, the coffee show I did the week before on social media marketing had like 300 or something like that. So it's interesting to see what people are interested in. So anyway, but yeah, I had bands that I put together throughout high school, but I was always the one that was driven. We're going to do this. We're going to record. We're going to blah blah blah, and people would leave the band. They're like, well, I'm not into it like that. I'm going to college. I'm going to become a whatever. Uh, yes, I want to rock. Insert Twisted Sister. I want to rock. Oh, I'm gonna get carried away. uh, but yeah, so I wanted to rock. Yes. So my original plan was to go to Musicians Institute in Los Angeles, in Hollywood. Now, had I have had I had gone, get my words in the right order, to Musicians Institute, I would have been there the same time Morgan Rose from Seven Dust was there. This was pre 7S for him. I would have been there the same time that Ray Luzier was part of the staff that was there teaching. So all the stuff, you find out in hindsight, looking at like, but and I'll probably do a video on this too. Like if you're too old, or if the location where you live is that important to making it or breaking it. So in the early 90s, specifically 1990, when I graduated high school, location was important. It was like, well, you needed to live in Los Angeles or Nashville or New York, maybe Chicago, Austin, Texas, those places where things were happening. So I had auditioned for Musicians Institute. I was accepted into Musicians Institute. I paid my deposit to Musicians Institute, and I didn't go. Part of it probably was fear, because when I graduated high school, I was 17, and then so I turned 18 that summer. Where most kids go to school, they're 18 and then they turn 19. So I was on the young side of everybody in my class. So it's like this farm kid from Caldwell, Idaho, looking at going to Los Angeles, a place I'd never been before. I would be going by myself, blah, blah, blah. So I didn't go. But leading all into these scenarios, my parents would ask me, well, what is your plan B? Like, what if this doesn't work out? Now, they didn't pressure me in any way to say, don't follow your dreams. You should really go for something secure, become a, part of that, get up every morning at the same time, go to work, hit, punch a clock, whatever those things are, or maybe go to school to get some degree in something I was interested in. But maybe music was something for fun, and this other path would be, how you made your money. I did not like talking about plan B at all. And I think my parents knew that. Like I said, there was no pressure from them. What ended up happening, though, instead of going to Musicians Institute, I auditioned for a company called Worldwide Showcase out of Tampa Bay, Florida, who put bands together and sent them on the road, cover bands. And so we did like high school assembly programs on like stay in school, and part of it was like teen counseling stuff. It was positive message things. And anybody who grew up through the 80s or maybe the early 90s remember bands like Free Fair that came to your school and put on a concert. So that was part of the thing that I was involved with. Good morning, Greg. So that's where I went. So instead of going to LA, I went to Florida and toured. My first manager, Mike Jones, who managed Amy Grant. So that's where I got my education, if you will, for music, was working through Showcase and learning a lot about the business side and XYZ. So, in recent history, the last couple of years, I've been able to transition into being a full-time musician. And being a full-time musician requires having multiple streams of revenue. It's not even national touring artists seem to have something else. Maybe they write books, maybe they have instructional things, maybe they teach, all of those things. So unless you're a superstar band where that's all you have to do, most people have some other stream of income coming in. And that's not to say that that's a plan B. It's just they're getting other streams of revenue through music. So for me, I'm teaching drum lessons, I'm recording drum tracks, I'm playing live with bands, currently most heavily with Cliff Miller, and those kind of things. So but I did have a plan B in there. And I watch these inspirational videos. A lot of them come from Kenny Aronoff, who is a great model to me about the music business. And if you don't know who Kenny Aronoff is, you can research him, and you'll soon discover how much stuff he's done, and the people he's worked with is really impressive. So I kind of made this list here, like, because I watched a Kenny Aronoff video last night, and I don't know if it was he that said this or somebody that he was interviewing it. He said, if you have a plan B, you're going to end up taking plan B instead of sticking with plan A. And I've experienced that myself because a location, growing, trying to have a music career in Boise, Idaho, until recently was probably not going to be good. You'd have to live in Los Angeles or New York or Nashville, somewhere where things are happening. Now through internet, and social media and all those things makes it possible now to get your name out there and brand and blah blah blah, all the things I talked about 2 weeks ago. But whoever Kenny was talking to was basically said, if you have a plan B, you're going to take it. And I've taken plan B a few different times, and because I thought I needed to make money. And so it wasn't coming from music, and at some point the reality comes in, like, well, I have to pay my bills. So I've always had those jobs where I could quit easily if I needed to. So it wasn't some corporate job. I ended up being in the landscaping business for a long time, and eventually had my own business doing that, and was kind of in a mindset at that time, like, okay, music's something I do on the side for fun, and landscaping is going to pay my bills, which it did. Still just what a grind. So here's I wrote like this list of plan A, plan B, pros and cons. And so plan B, or excuse me, let me restart that. Plan A is where the heart lives, and plan B is where the mind lives. And Kenny Aronoff says, like, your heart will trump your intellect 100% of the time. Like, you should follow your dreams and follow your heart. So plan A is uncertainty, and plan B is certainty. So you're exchanging that. Plan A has risk, and plan B is safe and reliable. Plan A is satisfaction. Plan B is regrets. Plan A is happy, and plan B is quietly miserable. So how all that stuff relates to my situation, maybe it might be different for you to a certain degree, but all the years I was landscaping, every day there was something kind of in the back of my head, like, this is not where I'm supposed to be. This is not what I love to do. Being miserable to certain degrees, either physically or emotionally, mentally drained, tired. Now, I wouldn't put all landscapers down. Some people, that is their passion, is to be a landscaper and to create things and to stand back and say, I built that. Like, I physically built that. Some people saw a few summers ago, I built my driveway, and it's all pavers. I personally laid every single paver down. I cut every single paver on the edge. I built that, and now people drive by in the neighborhood and they see this nice driveway, and they ooh and ah over it. It's the only paver driveway in the neighborhood. But yes, so I did have moments where I would build something and go, wow, that was really cool. That was a lot of, but overall, I was just physically and emotionally and mentally just drained. Like, I put all this effort and time into learning a craft and music, and that's where I love to be and love to be on stage, and just kind of feeling like I wasn't ever going to get beyond what I was doing. Like, just accepting defeat kind of in a certain way, in a certain aspect, that the dream I had was no longer, a thing that could be reality, and that I would just, I was taking care of my family and doing those things, being, responsible, but it wasn't through music. It was through long, hot, sweaty, uncomfortable days. And there was no end to it. So I had asked a guitar player friend of mine who I had toured with in two different bands, Terry Sharp, and I don't know if I think it was after I had toured with him the second time. So Terry is one of those guys that his job, his whole life has been playing guitar. He's never had any other job. He's never worked a fast food job. He's never been a landscaper. He's never been a Walmart greeter. He's never had anything else in his life other than playing guitar for a living. And he was one of those guys that made a decision. He never had plan B, ever. And I was talking to him on the phone, I think, after this second band I had toured with him. I was just kind of sharing some of these same thoughts with him all these years ago. And he said, you know what you need to do? And I said, what? He goes, quit your job. I was like, what? There's no way that I could quit my job. And he said, quit your job, make drumming your full-time thing. Like, figure that out. Like, there's no other option for you. He said, quit your job and play music. And I don't think that I had the right people close enough in my circle to support that way of thinking. Now, I think that way of thinking, in my experience, is easier now just because of my networking and all of those things. The other thing is, not to go too far down this because sometimes there's backlash to it, but being a believer in God, some of this is all God's timing, and that's how I view it. So maybe I had to go through all of this other junk, if you will, to be where I am now, because at 51 years old, that's the reality. Is I'm 51. I feel like my opportunities are bigger and greater than they ever have been in my entire life, which seems odd because you think, well, that's something that should have been happening when I was, 20 to 25 years old. And that's where other people would come along the way over time and say, well, what's your plan B? You're 25, let's see, we opened for Motley Crue in 1998, I think. Yeah. 1998. And so when we did these shows with opening for Motley Crue, Anthony did a phone radio interview with the radio station, and we have it on cassette somewhere, this radio interview. And Mary says it's 1999. Yeah, that's probably right. Like January, February, March. I think March of '99. Yeah. Anyway, in the radio interview, the radio personality asked Anthony. He said, "Hey, Anthony, I was talking to you off air, and you said, hope something happens fast because we're getting old. Anthony, tell people out there how old you are." And he said 26. And to look back at that now, 25 years ago, that, even Anthony at that point, when we're opening up for Motley Crue, he's like, I don't know, something better happen because we're getting old. We're 26. Just seems so ridiculous now. Hey, my sister Susie is here. Good morning. Daniel, fact checkers aren't real, Mary. Oh, Mary's right there with the facts. She'll never let me down. So yeah, your plan B. Now, my sister Susan's on here. I'm going to talk about you for a second. My sister has always loved horses. As far as I know, has always loved horses. We had an uncle who bred and raised Arabian horses. Now, I am not educated whatsoever in horse stuff, okay? I couldn't tell you horses to me more or less all look the same. Now, my sister, on the other hand, has been trained to have an eye for horses, specifically Arabian horses. And my sister had this dream all this time to have her own farm where she took over my uncle's business or whatever. It's called Ohadi Arabians. Ohadi is Idaho backwards. Okay. But she had this dream of doing this and figured out a way to make it happen. And I'm sure that it's long days and it's hard work, but it's something that she's really, really in love with. She says it's a breeding program. Okay. Like I said, I can't speak intelligently about horses, okay? If you guys want to do a deep dive, my sister's right there, and you can ask her all the questions you want. But she too, now is looking at like all these opportunities that are coming her way finally at this point of her life, and it's really, really cool to see that that's what she's doing. So Greg, let's see. Let's try the Seymour thing. Why don't you work for me? It'll pop up in like 3 minutes. Having a plan B takes one's attention away from doing what's necessary to make plan A work. Yeah. So all of that being said, plan A, plan B, I think for one, we're living in a great time. Just like technology makes things easier than it used to be if you're willing to use these tools. Whereas, like I've said before, Midline had press packets, like physical things that we would mail. All of those things are old school. So, keeping up with the current trends, that is really, really important, especially us who are, middle-aged. Is that fair? Is that correct? What was I going to say? So still having plan A, I'm here. I want to be here. Now, how do I bridge that gap as smoothly and easily as possible? You do have to go, I want to do this, but I need to get over there. Like, how am I going to do that? So, when I was younger, I had an idea where I wanted to be, but getting there was really unclear and frustrating. And so while you're like zigzagging, trying to make it over here, financial responsibilities catch up with you, falling in love, having a wife, eventually children, those kind of things. It's like, okay, now I have all these responsibilities, and I still have this heart's desire to be somewhere else. Not somewhere else away from my family, but just a different career path. One thing that's not uncommon that you see with, like I said, I'm 51, and this has probably been a trend over the last 10 to 15 years, is people approaching 40, unsatisfied with their career path, have gone back to school to get degrees in, you name it. People got teaching degrees, mechanical engineering degrees, those kind of things, to have a better life, or to be able to afford a better life. I don't know if that makes sense. Some people, having little money and little responsibility is the life they want. I just want to live comfortably and take care of my family easily. So, plan B. If you have a plan B, you're going to end up taking plan B because of all the reasons I said. intellectually smart. There's certainty, safe, reliable, especially when you're working for somebody else. Like, all the responsibilities of that job is on that person's shoulders and not yours. So, you go and you interview for a job, and, a lot of times not even a negotiation. It's like, we're going to pay you this much money an hour, or we're going to salary you for this much money a month, or whatever the scenario is. And then you're just locked into that, which is good for budgetary reasons and things too. But, maybe in 90 days or 6 months or a year, there's, reevaluations on where you can be and make more money and those kind of things. So there's that reliable, safe thing. But, being self-employed or chasing your dreams, it's in the air a lot. That's where, like, making that plan from here to here is important, to treat, me being in the music business, Fred Fisher Incorporated. It's important step, because you do have to have an income. Greg, if you want to do extraordinary things, risk is part of the game. Yeah, exactly. I think, I did make this note that both Plan A and Plan B require a commitment to making something happen. It's just not either situation. Somebody's not just handing. You have a responsibility to do part of the work. But one thing that Kenny Aronoff has said in his videos, like, people ask him all the time, like, how do you stay ready? And he says being spiritually, physically, mentally, and emotionally healthy. So that all leads to, like, our mindset on how all of this works and our outlook on things. Being spiritually, physically, mentally, and emotionally healthy is really, really good, because there's a lot of opportunity for success, but right there with it is the possibility of defeat over and over and over. And so we can start playing mind games with ourselves, like, well, if it doesn't work, just like I said in the title, what if it doesn't work? Start having all these questions like, what if? Well, I'm so scared of the what ifs that we don't step out and take that risk, just like Greg was mentioning here. So at any rate, I think that's pretty much about all I have. On a completely different side note, the last couple of weeks, you guys have been seeing me post a lot of drumming videos. Some of them are little clips from drum covers I've done in the past. And then some of them it's like a short 1 minute or less sort of instructional video. And those have been really taking off. I've got like 2,500 new followers on Facebook, and my TikTok has taken off. I almost have 100 new subscribers on YouTube, and it's been really cool. But along with some of that, every once in a while is some negative comment that comes in. Not a lot. Most everything's pretty positive, but it's first of all, most of the comments I laugh at. One I just got yesterday said, "It looks like you like to play the drums a lot. Maybe with a lot of work, you'll become a good musician." At first I was like, what? And then all I could do was laugh and then delete. So there's always going to be somebody that's going to come along and have some kind of words of wisdom for you. So there you go.